There's an exciting upcoming exhibition at Burren College of Art, Unearthed Through Air Tied to Each Other, is this year's MFA Graduate Exhibition, opening on the 11th of this month and running through to the 24th. The show brings together work that explores dreamlike spaces, environmental change and the idea of connection in an uncertain world. And I'm joined by three of the graduating artists, Elana Morchower, Karen St. Pierre and Sarah Vandermeer. Ladies, a very good morning to all three of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you. All sound chipper. They've had their cups of coffee this morning. That's good to hear. Who would like to tell me about, and our listeners, about Unearthed Through Air Tied to Each Other? An intriguing title. What can visitors expect? And there's a kind of a sense of connection and uncertainty in the theme. How do those ideas shape the exhibition?
I think we were all drawn to ideas of around disorientation, especially where we live. In such a rural environment. I think mapping came up in all of our practices a little bit, and then that kind of turned into a way of like documenting an experience emotionally rather than through a map. And I think all of our work kind of draws from that kind of focal point in different directions.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen, I mean, although you each have distinct practices, there does seem to be a shared thread. I mean, how do you, when it comes to a group show, how do your ideas come together? You know, you all have distinctive work, but the commonality that might be there.
It's all sort of a feeling of well, there's a feeling of forgetting, and there's a feeling of kind of like Sarah said, disorientation, like stumbling around is kind of how we've been describing it. There's also kind of some uncanniness to it, and there's a lack of color is kind of prevalent, but then through the center, Sarah's work has color, so there's kind of like black and white on the outside of it, and then as you move through it, there's a bit more like vividness. Which is kind of interesting in comparison to where we're at in the Burren, like with so much gray, and then as the spring is coming, there's more yellow and greens, and I think that is showing up in our work as well.
Yeah, Elana, the backdrop or the background that you're surrounded by, the Burren, you know, how does that work for you in terms of inspiration? Or as Karen was saying there, you know, at times of the year it's pretty grey. I don't know, can that get the mood down a bit? But now we're coming into the party year where hopefully things will be a little bit brighter, and maybe brings more of a positivity into your mindset and your approach to your work.
Yeah, I think with the disorientation part of it, there's like really interesting shapes and really interesting species. Like the mosses here have come up a lot in our work, especially in Sarah's work. And also like, yeah, Sarah, if you want to touch on like working with Sitka too.
Oh yeah. I think we're all influenced by the environment in really different but cohesive ways. And for me, a lot of that has been this year through the Sitka plantations around Clare. I've been taking a lot of walks through them and just kind of doing a bit of research through organizations that have been spending time looking at Sitka plantations for years. So a lot of my body of work is just painting from memory those experiences of walking through the Sitka plantations, and a lot of that has to do with mosses and the colors that come up. And I don't know if any of your listeners have been to a Sitka plantation before, but the trees are very tight together. They're very dark, and really mosses and some mushrooms are the only thing that's able to grow there. So there is definitely a sense of disorientation through that experience. And there are things we pass by on the road all the time. There are these big kind of groupings of trees that are close together, and they look kind of like mystical, like something from Lord of the Rings. And then you walk inside and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a very interesting environment. So my work is dealing a lot with that and what the idea of a forest is and how that changes based on our perception of it. Like if you know that the trees are planted, does it still make it a forest, or does it make it a sort of garden in a way? So just exploring those ideas.
And when you talk about ecological strangeness, Sarah, is that what you've described? Is that what you're kind of referring to?
That is what I'm referring to, that mixture of the idea of nature as being something pristine and separate from humans, and then the idea of nature as being something that we're a part of and an ecosystem that we all have a hand in creating. And like, if you know that it is human made, does it still make it natural? And looking at those questions and trying to unpack those definitions that we might internally hold.
Karen, in your work, you're using collage and layered materials, and you explore themes like memory and perception. What drew you to those particular themes?
Well, my installation is a series of large fabric hangings, monumental size, over 3 meters high, and there are many of them, and they are translations of small collages. And the reason I was drawn to memory was that in the past several years, I have been caring for family members with advanced dementia at the end of life. And memory loss has been something I've been observing and caring for individuals with it. And what I've noticed is that there's so much fragmentation with memory when people when it's being let go. And my work explores that fragmentation, and collage is a medium where you have a lot of fragments that you put together and create new meanings with individual pieces. So my installation explores memory through fragmentation and experiencing how pieces can be put back together or a narrative reassembled from fragments, which is much like how individuals with memory loss find their way. They know, they remember certain things, and then they put it together to make their way through to understanding what's going on.
Yeah, and Elana, your work, you utilise woodcut printmaking, ideas of speculative world building. Can you tell us more about that process and how your work blends the real and the imagined?
Yeah, I'm using actual species, and I'm also creating new species and new creatures in my work. So kind of like imagining creatures that might emerge within forests or within any sort of woods that are kind of coming from my experience from living in the southern US, and where there's a lot of like political strife and just sort of the need to imagine new ways of being within that. I'm creating large woodcuts, so woodcut prints, which is process is carving into a block of wood and then printing that, and the image ends up in reverse. And I'm incorporating text and images, so there's an element of humor as well. It's kind of drawing from images of like the carnival and those really strange posters that are really reminiscent of that era of like 1920s kind of carnival culture. Yeah, and so they're about like 120 centimeters in width, and yeah, on translucent paper. So there's a bit of warmth to it as well.
Well, people can view all of this pretty soon. As I mentioned in the introduction, the exhibition runs from the 11th until the 24th of April. Sarah, what kind of experience are you hoping visitors will have when they walk through the exhibition? And have you all got that sense of anticipation, excitement at showcasing your work, but you're not sure yet how audiences will react to them?
I think that's always the case when you're showing a new body of work. There's definitely a bit of, like you said, anticipation and nerves. Like, will it be interpreted in the way that I interpret it? But I think that's part of the fun of going to see art and live art shows. I think everybody who comes brings something to the table, something from their own experience. And I think that's more interesting for us than if everybody kind of had the same experience. And I think for all of us, we kind of just want to be able to communicate these deeply, deeply emotional, felt things through images with people, through color and through line work and through scale. I think all of us do a great job at thinking about these things very deeply, and we hope to be able to share it with people.
Well, you'll be sharing it with them very soon. The exhibition called Unearthed Through Air, Tied to Each Other, running from the 11th to the 24th at the Burren College of Art. And ladies, the very best with it. And thank you to the three of you for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is Sarah Vandermeer, Karen St. Pierre and Elana Morchower with us on Morning Focus. And you can check out their exhibition at the Burren College of Art.